Where you're at in your frame right now, you're at shoulders and up. I
Hmm.
want to give you a couple of sounds. However you hear it, match the sound. Ticka-ticka-ta-ticka. Yes. Welcome to Unshut, where nothing is off the table. Keeping quiet and holding back is no longer an option. I am your host, Mo. Thank you so much for tuning in.
How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for accepting my invite. I was really excited to kind of get to know you a little bit more and get listeners to also get to know you a little bit more. I'm going to do a quick little intro for you and then jump in with some questions and get to chatting. Sounds good?
All right, cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. Like I'm not sure of the flow. Like I watched and listened to a couple of your other podcasts, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm like, you seem to already know stuff about certain people already. I'm like, all right, cool. This guy looks like he does his homework. Cool.
Yes. And I also try not to over prep people just because part of the concept of the podcast is I want it to be conversational as well. So there is preparation on my end. On
Right.
your guys' end, I don't like to prepare. That way you guys can kind of be on your toes. And it always allows the personality to really come through. I'm not Perez Hilton. So my job is to make sure that you look good, you sound good, and I don't
Right.
want to put shitty quality out anyway. So
Appreciate that.
of course. Well, welcome Q Harper, formerly a member of Royal Flush, a crew that was featured on MTV's America's Best Dance Crew, choreographer and trainer. And honestly, I wasn't sure if you were a trainer or not. I was just going based off your apps. So there goes that.
Legit.
Where are you originally from?
Originally, I would say, I mean, I'm from Atlanta. I spent most of my time in Atlanta, Georgia, born up north in Alliance, Ohio, and spent very little time there. Most of my upbringing has been Atlanta, surrounding Atlanta, Florida, and a little bit of LA time.
How long were you in LA for?
Honestly, I've never got to really experience LA living. If I'm there, it's to do a gig and I'm back. So if you like my opener to LA was ABDC. That was the first gig out there that got me even out there. And for the most part, like I loved that part of it, but I only saw the work part. Like I only saw the being at the studio, being at the hotel, and any other gig that came along was the same way.
I feel like that is the culture of LA anyway. It's like work and go, you know?
Dude, I want to go back and just kick it.
No obligation, just go back and actually explore for what it is.
Yeah, explore, see some shit that I've seen on movies and posts. Like that's the goal. But right now, everything's like an expensive trip just for the sake of a trip. And I'm like, it's easy when you're working because they're paying for it. So
Exactly. Exactly. Do you have any kids or anything like that?
I have two kitty cats and I have a lot of students. I consider those my little ones. Those are the ones that I'm sharing knowledge with on a regular basis.
And you said you have cats.
Yes, I have two long hair kitties, Ty and Keiko. Ty and Keiko. Ty and Zuki. Keiko was my oldest baby, and she actually passed away a few years ago.
Oh,
Oh yeah. But yep, she lives on in the memory in all the pictures because I took a lot of them.
oh, that's amazing. Any plans on adding to the cat crew?
I don't know. I don't know, man. Like for one, I consider my cats a part of my family. So it's like when Keiko passed, Ty got really lonely. I was like, nope, that's not cool. So we went and got him another buddy. Now they're like connected, and I know Ty's older and Zuki's younger. So God forbid, but when time happens and he's gonna go, like she's gonna be by herself. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to handle that.
Oh, that's the toughest thing, especially when like I used to underestimate the attachment from people to pets like all
Right.
the time. And I ignorantly enough, I specifically with dogs, I used to always feel like, man, white people are crazy about their dogs. And now I have two standard poodles. And honestly, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen to me when something happens to them. I am stupidly attached to them. It is ridiculous. So,
It's ridiculous. It does. I was not a cat person until I got cats. And it wasn't even like I chose to get cats. My wife, at the time, my girlfriend and fiance was like, hey, I'm looking at these cats. And I'm like, don't get those cats. And she got them anyway. And then like a couple 6 months later, they're like my best little buddies, and now I'm attached.
It was meant to be.
I dig it. Actually, I'm not even gonna lie. I kind of like them. Like I love dogs too, but I like them a little better than dogs now because they're so independent. They do their own thing. Like they do their thing over there, and I'm over here chilling. Like when I had dogs, they're on me all the time, you know. But it's like we're like roommates, and it works.
And they're so majestic too. I know cats are like
Oh
they're
yeah.
they're little fucking gymnasts, you know?
They're gymnasts. I like pretty things and they're super pretty. Like we went and just made them like their own little Instagram because we have so many pictures. Like we have so many pictures and videos of these cats. And she's like, my wife's like, what are you gonna do with all these pictures? I'm like, I think we should start them a page. We need to go ahead and do that. The world needs to see how gorgeous these cats are.
Listen, better than starting an Instagram for your kids. I find that shit so annoying. I'd rather see pets all day.
I believe you because I do the same thing. Like I'll be on Instagram looking up cat videos. It's consuming.
No, I totally get it. When did dance begin for you? Like, what's your earliest memory of dance?
When I saw the original Breaking movies and Beat Street, I think I just saw them on TV and I saw like little pieces of them, so I didn't get the full story. And then my mom bought them. Like that, like it like blew my mind. Like I'm talking, this is like old school, like Breaking Electric Boogaloo. Like hip hop dance itself wasn't even like really like what at that time wasn't in like mainstream studios and stuff like that. So just that hip hop culture kind of really just captivated my mind. And I was already a lover of music. I tell my students all the time, people are like, oh, I just love dance. I love dance, I do. But I realize I love music probably a little more. And I dance because I love music so much. Yeah, so like around that age, like fifth, fourth grade, I saw it. I still wasn't, like I was doing like my own thing. You ever see like little kids at a party and they're like, I'm gonna break dance, and they like just roll around all over the floor and just
Yep.
all their energy. That was me for several years. Eventually, like honestly, like I don't even think I took my first class, like real class, until I was like 18. I was fortunate enough though to have there's this teacher that I had in high school named Mr. Kulik. I'll never forget him because he ran a program, an after school program called Urban Arts, where he really just taught like hip hop culture, like the four pillars, like DJing, MCing, breaking, graffiti art. And I was already doing the graffiti art part because I was an art major. So I would incorporate like that graffiti style and culture into my art. And he taught it all because he was really into like the Atlanta underground like hip hop scene. And it was like he's the coolest, weirdest white guy you'd ever see in your life. Like he looked like a cartoon character. He had like almost like a kind of a Jufro kind of like swag. He had these thick sideburns, and he'd be wearing like a graphic T-shirt with a lab coat because he was like a science teacher, and he looked like a kid, like he's a teacher walking around, but he looked like an animated, just young person walking around. Yeah, I had some friends invite me to the club to because like they knew I was into dance. Like I met the dude, I met the club people, and it was like that, like it just clicked. I was like, yep, this forever. Yeah, it was like that was like so that was like my intro to dance.
Do you think your mom noticed at the time that you had started this spark of interest when you were introduced to that love of like, oh, I think I could really get into hip hop?
Maybe. I'm sure in some sense, but at the time it was like my parents were definitely grinding at the time. So like they're just trying to make sure we got a roof over our head. So I'm sure she noticed I'm in the kitchen because the floor is smooth in the kitchen. So I'm just in there just trying to spin around and mimic what I'm seeing in these movies. Now, no, I'm probably watching these movies like every other day. I already know the story. I know I'll go through and fast forward to the dance clips and just rewatch those. And I'm like analyzing the moves, like, okay, okay, use this pause, okay, go back, practice my moves. So I'm sure they noticed, but yeah, at the time it wasn't like, oh, let's go try some classes. Like we didn't have the money for that. Maybe even the time for the most part. Like if we're having family time, then that's like us at the park, something low key and cheap. And when they're not doing that, they're working.
Yeah. Are you the only child?
No, I am one of seven. Seven at the time, it was like me, and it's been a slow progression. like like around that age, it was like just me and my sister. And then as we got older, my dad popped out like three more. And then we got a little bit older, my dad popped out two more. So,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, he's like big. He's big. He's an old school guy, so he's into the big family. My mom was like two, like my biological mom was like she's like two. That's it for me.
So I'm the middle child of five, and the youngest one, he just turned 18 like a couple weeks ago.
See, that's like that's doable, right? That's doable. Like, how old are you?
34.
34. See, okay, see, at least y'all can like hang out, talk. Like like the youngest, like what how old am I? I'm 34. The youngest, like my youngest is Maisha. She just turned like 3 or 4.
Oh, shoot.
Like, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like huge. Like she doesn't even see me as her brother. Like I am. She's like, oh, that's my dad's friend. I'm like, no, that's your brother. That's your brother.
I mean, at this point, it's a fucking skill for your dad. He's like, watch this.
But you know what? I'm like, dude, that's why I don't even be tripping. Like, oh, because we don't have any like kids yet. People are like, you're waiting too long. I'm like, if you're healthy, the range of when you can have kids is definitely much wider.
No, that's amazing. They are a little blessing in disguise. I know, like with I have two younger brothers, and they both came unexpectedly, unplanned. And I'm sure when your 3 year old is older, that connection will be there. And they're little blessings in disguise for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's interesting because they help me see a different side of my dad. Like
Mm.
they have a very different father than I have. Like I love my dad. My dad's taught me a lot, like just mentality and the way I learn. I learned a lot of it from him. And seeing how they're developing shows me how his mind has developed over the years. And it's like these little jokers, like I was the first one, so I was the tester child, you know? So at this point, I feel like he's probably like really honed in on his teaching ability because these two little jokers, like my two youngest siblings, for their age, they're ridiculously intelligent. Coming from someone who struggled in school, they're not gonna have any problems in school at all. They may not be as hard. It may be a little later on because like I had life groom me and my dad was much younger. So the patience was a little, lower. Now he's like a guru, wise, calm person at all times. So it's a very different dynamic.
I love it because my siblings, specifically my two older sisters, we talk about that a lot, how it's so fascinating to see where it can sometimes maybe it can cause a little resentment for some people, but in our family, it truly is kind of like, man, just different stages of your life. And you know what, you can't get mad at your parents for doing it differently with the younger one when they're a lot wiser. I know my mom's hustle with, three of us before the other two came along. I mean, she was working three jobs, she was a single mom. It was a completely different parent than who she is now with my stepdad, who now has help. It's different.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I remember having to like being the older one, needing to like talk to my siblings, like, hey, y'all are getting upset over something that no one can control. Like, this is not, he didn't have the option of teaching them the way he taught us. Can't get upset for the skills he didn't have. And for the most part, I'm like, and chill out. Cause like my younger sibling, like the one who's right under me, that girl, super smart, super goal oriented. Like that girl is good to go.
So, on the fly question, because now you've got me thinking, right? Would you be able to train or coach your siblings?
My confidence would like to say yes, hell yeah. Now, I think I would be able to do it at this stage in my life. Maybe like 5, 10 years ago. Absolutely not. I would try, and I'm sure I would turn them all away. Like they'd be like, I can't handle it. You suck.
No, that's the same thing with me. Like early on in my career, there's absolutely no fucking way I'd be able to do it. And I think not necessarily talking ego or pride, but I would feel like, listen, you're my sibling. You cannot make me look bad. dad, you know? And I am extremely competitive. So I know they would be like, this fucking
Oh,
psycho of a brother. So looking back at it like 10 years ago, there's no way I could have done it. Now, I mean, I'm completely retired. I don't do anything like that anymore. But if I were still actively doing it and I did that now, I could totally do it. But back then, no way.
okay. You were retired from dance?
Hmm.
All right. Like what's did you just find another love? Did something what happened with that?
A few years ago, I decided to kind of go on a completely different venture. For 15 years, all I did was travel 3 to 4 weekends of every single month. And I got to a point where I'm like, it started to become an obligation. I had to really reconsider what exactly I was doing for the rest of my life. And something that I thought I was really good at was connecting with people and being the best at improvising at anything I didn't even know anything about. Got into the most random shit ever. But ironically, it's the reason why I'm now pursuing passions in a completely artistic and creative different way than I did before because I no longer had to take my passions and make them my bread and butter. I'm now able to revisit them in a completely different angle, which is why I started podcasting to begin with.
That's badass. I love that.
I actually started off with hip hop. Hip hop is where it really started for me. I guess you can say, as much as I love all the performing arts, music above all. So I related to what you were saying about that. But I loved fucking money. That's where I'm like, listen, I grew up so poor. We were so poor when I was little that I think I grew up having this dream of one day having money. And so I think early on in my career, I made the switch from hip hop to going into cheerleading because I saw it as a cash cow. But yeah, that's just a
I,
little bit more about me, I guess.
no, I feel that. That is actually really cool because I'm always interested as far as like dancers that I've started off with and grew up with, and people like, especially when we're a lot of us starting around the same time and the same era, to look around and see just what people are doing now, you know. And I feel because I feel you. Like I remember when Royal Flush kind of like dispersed, like I was just working as a solo dancer for a while, and at some point like my passion became this job and I started to lose a lot of that care to even do it. It was, that's what got me into fitness, honestly, in the first place. There's part like I've always kind of wanted certain things that fitness provided. I mean, just being like transparent, like I just wanted to be hot, like this superhero like person. Like I grew up watching and reading comic books, Superman, X-Men, like DC and Marvel. Like that was like my childhood, right? So in my mind, that's the kind of superhero physique that I'm like, I want that. How do you get that? And when I finally found certain people, like some of my mentors that kind of showed me this is how you do that, my break from dance to develop in something else that I have, I get to learn from someone, no one's necessarily grading me on it. There's no audition. You just go and you train and you give it your all, like you get to, I think that's what I liked about it the most. I get to go to this guy who's teaching me this thing and I just get to absorb it. He's not testing me with, whatever. And then being able to still use my energy, and I don't know, I can tell I'm a much calmer person now. Like when I get my workout in, I noticed that early on. Like when I get my workout in after that, it's really hard to piss me off. Like it's really difficult to like, get that energy out because it's already out, it's gone. So yeah, man, like that's kind of like same thing. Like I found this other thing I got to revisit, like something that I thought about as a child. Like how do you become a superhero? Oh, this is how. So now I get to fully go into this thing. And I even kind of gave dance like a break. Like I went full on trainer and was just training people and wasn't really dancing that much. After maybe a year or so, the itch to dance and create kind of started to come back up. I kind of started to like I got back into it. But then the moment I noticed I was doing certain types of things in dancing that I wasn't necessarily like, that didn't really bring anything out of me, I was like, okay, don't do that. Don't kill it for yourself again. So I end up just trying to be a little more picky about where I put my energy and how I use this passion because I want it to stay a passion. I don't want it to become just another obligation. That's when I really started to just hone in on like I'll look up whatever the audition was or whatever the class was. And I'm like, if it ain't vibing the way I wanted to vibe, like I'll go to a class, and if I don't like the song, I'll leave. You know, because if it does, because I don't, it's like I don't want to feel like I have to do this. Is you know, it gets bad when you start doing gigs that you're not even proud of. You're like you're not telling people about because it's not like doesn't it's not reflecting me well, and I don't feel great doing it. You know, so yeah, it was like, and it was like trying to find that thing that felt good about it, even though I'm not with my crew anymore, you know? Because like I think that's really what happened. Like when that dispersed, like that, everything we did pretty much felt pretty awesome. Like even if we had drama going on, even if like whatever was going on, like when we were dancing together and performing, like that felt right. And now I'm out here solo. I mean, you like to be in a room full of dancers, and you might know a couple people. Now y'all have to like work to be in sync. Whereas with the squad, like within 20-30 minutes, you're in sync. Like y'all know how each other moves. It's like now I have to like reintroduce my energy to you guys, and now we gotta like try to match. And some people don't want to match because they want to be. I'm like, this gig we're supposed to look similar, right? Like like so yeah, it's like just a whole different vibe. And then the climb for like an audition or something like that, like where people are. I know with my crew, everyone was for me. And you're trying to make everyone around you look good. You're not jumping in front of anybody. You're not doing anything like that. And then in this form, it's like every man for himself. People are trying to, like I remember being in auditions and a person would like jump right in front of me to be like, "Hey, look at me," and I'm like, that's rude, but okay.
That
Yeah.
is so fascinating. I never thought what that dynamic would be switching from going to so many different auditions or going into different performances as a crew versus as a solo. Never thought about that. That's wild. It's interesting to also hear you talk about where you're also choosing where to put your energy, because I think the biggest misconception there is that taking a break from what you love means there was no passion at all. But I always tell people that falling off the bandwagon, it's so healthy for us, because if it wouldn't be for that, we wouldn't be able to revisit why we fell in love with it in the first place. So I think that sometimes taking a break from what truly is your passion, it's totally healthy. Like people, I'm sure there are some people who are probably thinking like, oh, Mo used to just really love being on tour, and now he's just doing this podcast and things, look a little bit different now. And that doesn't mean I'm not passionate about it anymore, or it doesn't mean that I don't have the passion. It's just that taking a break from that passion becoming an obligation is so healthy, because I am now doing podcasting, but I'm also revisiting creativity, which is something I didn't even think podcast was going to do. Like I'm interacting with musicians, with artists, and the way I'm connecting to even things like lyrics now as a 34-year-old man, it's so different than before and how I would connect to them as a dancer. So falling off the bandwagon, in my opinion, is so good. Leaving your passions, it's so good for you. But I do also want to talk about your beginnings with the crew. How does a crew even form? How did you guys connect, and who takes the initiative to be like, hey, we're going to become a crew?
You know what? Yeah, and I feel what you're saying. Like I think it's really healthy to definitely take a step back from anything, really. Otherwise, it just becomes routine. You're just doing it because you've always done it. But then to answer your question, the crew we formed like over the squad that we were on ABDC together, that formed a little bit over time. I met Aaron and Jared at a party. Like they were already like a little like duo. Like they already kind of had like maybe a 4-person crew. I remember this is back on like, do you remember MySpace?
Of course.
You're right. This is back in MySpace days where I actually was friends with this girl, and she told me like, "Hey, I'm going to this party. I'm gonna meet these guys who are looking for dancers, and this is like you're meeting people off the internet for the first time." She's like, "Can you come with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I got you." So we go to the party, and we meet them there, and in my mind, and I'm in party mode, like I'm probably like 17, 18. So I'm not even there necessarily like doing my job. Like I'm there. By the time they get there, I'm pretty sure I'm already mentally not fully there. If you know what I mean? A little circle kind of breaks out. And like at the time I'm a street dancer. So I'm like, oh, circle, let's go. So I hop in, do a quick set, and then I'm pretty sure like we danced around a little bit, and then I hop back out because I was hanging out with a girl in the back. So like I was like, bust a move, run back. And then they called me back out and was like, hey, can you like, they tried to like show me a couple moves to see if I can just pick up what they were doing. And yeah, like since then, like I did a few of their moves that they were trying to show me. At that time, I was like a 100% breaker. Like I wasn't doing choreography. We're not, well, I mean, we were doing breaking choreography. That was about it. So they were like, hey, take my number. It'd be really, really cool if you could meet our manager. And I was like, oh, okay, I got managers for dance. That sounds cool. And yeah, I think the next day I hit them up. I hit up their manager. She was this really cool black Filipino lady. Yeah, she just had us like, I think she had me come over to her house, and that's where they would have like their rehearsals and stuff. I met the other two that they had there. I think they had just kind of met them like maybe a few months ago as well. So we're a bunch of new kids. We're all like 17, 18 years old. And they're like, hey, we're trying to form this crew. America's Best Dance Crew is a show that we were all watching. One day we want to try to do that. And I'm like, I'm down for it. And at the time, I wasn't doing anything else really. Like I had just graduated high school. I thought I was going to be a professional skateboarder. That's where my mind was. Like, I was like, just graduated. I'm about to get this skate footage, send it off to these sponsors, see if I can grow that way. That was the plan. Plan that was written nowhere. It's just in my head. Like, yeah, just this really rough idea. So yeah, I meet these guys. I start meeting up with them like every week to practice and work on dances. Like they teach me stuff, I teach them stuff. Like everyone had a expertise in a style. I had a pretty firm breaking foundation. Aaron and Jared were trumpers, but they had also had taken a few classes here and there. Like when I say the formal training was rare, like it was not like we very, very little formal training. I think the most trained was Gisette, the girl that was in our crew. Like she had taken like jazz and like other like hip hop classes and like actually have like training. And then we had Flip, who was like a full tumbler. Like he had done cheer. He was an interesting combination because he had done cheer, so he had these amazing like gymnastics skills, and he was an Atlanta dancer. And when I say Atlanta dancer, like just think of all the Atlanta dances that come to mind, like old like swag surfing and all like any old like OG Atlanta dance. He like had he had like a superpower where like the swag was just there. And then the girl that even got me introduced to them, she like ghosted all of us. We like never really heard from her. Like she stuck around and like we did all the rehearsals and stuff. Like she came around the night before our first ABDC audition. Like something happened. We never heard from her.
Like, is she anywhere to be found now?
Yeah, yeah, I've run into her like little stuff on Instagram. I think I ran into her once at the gym. No hard feelings. It was just like during like that weird moment. I think, and this is just me speculating. I could be wrong, but I think the nerves were just so real, and I think I just don't think she could quite communicate it, and it was more like a just get out, just run away.
Gotcha. Because where I thought the conversation was going was like she disappeared. We don't know where she's at. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is about to turn into like an unsolved mystery fucking
No, no,
case
it's
here.
most. I mean, she's. I mean, last time I saw her was like on Instagram. Like I think she's alive and well, unless someone's using her account. But you know what though? I honestly, I see it as God just using her to get what was needed. Because if it wasn't for her, I would have never met these guys. So it's like they weren't contacting me; they were contacting her, and this thing just kind of came together. So I'm like, I have nothing but love for that girl now. You know, for the most part, it's like I think once I came to that realization, I was like girl, you dope. You did the thing that was necessary.
No, absolutely. Crazy enough, this is exactly where I was going to go with it. Like, has anyone even seen her? Because I do believe in, I mean, I don't believe in like maybe she was like this supernatural angel, right? But I do believe that there is a reason why certain alignments happen. I think, I mean, look at the path you're on now. It's crazy how something can just take a birth in that way. And I am a firm believer that God has a very creative way of speaking to all of us. And the way that he will redirect our lives is just completely fascinating.
That would have been amazing. Like if like say she did like disappear, like completely ghost no one, that would blow my mind. But for the most part, yes, I still think it was orchestrated by the orchestrator.
I love it. And I think that's the best way to even put it because I give him everything with my life. And this is why I love conversations like this because anyone would hear, anyone close-minded, anyone that carries a somewhat of ignorance would listen to your story and be like, "Oh, a party. You called a manager. How easy." So many people take our creative stories and they think it was the easiest journey ever. They just don't realize that really the groundwork and a lot of it also has to do with the passion that you were showing in your mom's kitchen. God was trying to remind you of that passion, taking you back to that happy place as an adult for a reason to provide you that protection that maybe Q didn't know he needed, but had you have not been there, your path could have been completely different. And so I know for me, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, like it must have been so easy. And it's like, well, it sounds glamorous, it sounds amazing, but the journey is nothing cookie cutter like how people like to take it, you know?
I wish it was cookie cutter. I wish there was a do A, B, C, to get there. Well, I say I wish, but in reality, if it were, it may not have created like the habits and the things that I have and the information that I know now. So it's like, no, I feel that like it can look easy in the story because that's in story. If this is in story form, I already know the story, so I can tell it to you in ABC form. When you're living it out, we just out here like like I'm sure there's some details that I left out because it wasn't necessary or not or maybe it's just like I don't even want to go there.
I think what fascinates me the most is that organically we got on this topic on how it's not easy. It's not as cool as it appears. And you'll see why with my next question. But this is why I do believe, like what you said, like the orchestrator, he really is just incredible. And he really does have a way of connecting people for a reason because I could literally show you on my phone and the order I have these questions. And the next one had something to do with what we were talking about. Something that's a really big push now that wasn't even just a few years ago were residuals. Do you make anything off of MTV?
I do not. I do not, man. Like when I look back at like a lot of the things, a lot of the gigs, a lot of the things that we had, like that's the only thing if I say I had regrets, it's the fact that I did not know. I didn't know the opportunities I had in my hand when I had them. Like I did not know what kind of power I really had. Again, we're 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. When I look back, it's like you made it really like you did really good for kids who didn't know shit. Most of those opportunities, like we're out there busting our ass and making 10% of what we could have been making. But again, that's coming from that's when you're working with just raw passion, no business sense whatsoever. Even our manager, like we didn't like I feel like she was probably winging it in a lot of the cases. And we were also like real talk, I think even when we moved on and like I remember one of the things that broke us off our manager in the first place was when we did the show, like when we did ABDC. It required us to take on their management. We weren't due to the paperwork, we weren't allowed to have outside managers. At that time, like there was no real loyalty in our hearts. Like I can say I love Connie, but when you have someone who doesn't understand, number one, doesn't understand business, doesn't really understand true loyalty. We saw this golden opportunity. In my mind, that's the dream I've had. America's Best Dance Crew. Like that was the dream, right? Become like your artist, of course. And then you just go, not knowing like they're taking full advantage of the situation. So
Absolutely. And I think that's why I wanted to ask because I know there are so many listeners out there who think of our careers as these creative passions. And we all know what it sounds like to say, oh, I'm a starving artist, right? Specifically when it comes to singers. But I feel like in the creative side of things that has to do with behind the scenes, like the producers, the directors, dancers, the choreographers. It's never really spoken about how we are fucking starving artists too. People are going to hear the beginning part of this, right? The Journey MTV, and they're going to be like, oh, he's still getting a check, but it's like, it's not there.
It's like, no, that's not how that works. I mean, it should work that way.
Right.
A lot of things like if you are thinking from a place of integrity, then yeah, it should be. But that's just unfortunately that's not the case that a lot of people have.
Yeah, I did scope out your website, which I love your website. Can you explain what artist development is? Because I know that's something that you offered on your website. And I was so impressed by that because not a lot of choreography companies or choreographers list that as something that they do. And I'm sure people are going to wonder if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that. That would be awesome.
I've been working with, I've worked with a lot of artists, and a lot of artists contact me for choreography throughout the years. I realized very quickly these artists that are asking for this type of choreography have no movement skills, like let alone dance and choreography skills. It's like they barely know how to move their body in a way that doesn't look awkward. And it was like, okay, let's start with just that. You look at an artist, let's say Neo. Neo can dance, but some of his performances aren't him dancing. He's just working the stage and working the space. Like, it's so crazy. Like, I'll see artists perform a song and they'll sit in one spot, not move, try to do their song there, try to go, hey, I really want choreography for this. I'm like, you want choreography, but you don't even move your body. That's not gonna work. It's not gonna translate good. We're gonna do all this work on this choreo, and you're not really gonna be able to do it. That's something that I really kind of dove into. Like I kind of had to like teach artists, like I want you to shoot for the stars, but we're gonna have to do this incrementally. Like I want you to win. Like I want you to be able to do this choreography, but I can't start you at the choreography. Let's learn how to command our stage and our space. When you're comfortable up here, because right now I'm watching you do your song and you're not comfortable up there. I need you to be comfortable on your feet. And let's walk around a little bit. Like that speaks so much to your audience. You don't need a whole crazy count to command and to wow an audience. Like those are cool. Choreography, big moves, like that can really push your performance up. But if you can just command your stage with confidence and give the love to everybody that came to your show, not just the people that's like right in the front, like there's people over there in the corners, people over there. Like if you can perform to everybody, like sometimes that can be all you need.
Yeah, and that engagement, you're absolutely right. There are so many shows that I would go to, or even performances that I would watch on YouTube, and I'm like, people really do forget what it's like to have that movement and that engagement. It's so important. And you're right, like choreography, of course, it'll elevate the performance, but have direction and interact with your audience. You said it correctly. There's no foundation. In your experience with where you're at today as a 34-year-old, right? 34?
Sir,
Yeah, as
I
a
think so. I forget sometimes, so I could be like the wrong age and be like, I'm 34, and my wife was thinking like you're 35, and I'd be like, like,
well, we'll just say in this stage of life that you're in now, has there been a place that choreography has taken you to that you were surprised at how much you loved going there? Like I know for me, a while ago, I went to this place called Duluth, Minnesota. Never heard of it, never researched it, and I thought, man, it's just Duluth, Minnesota, and it turned out to be my favorite place in the U.S. Like even today, when people are like, "Where should we go in the U.S.?" I'm like, "Go to Duluth, Minnesota. The best hiking trails, the best lakes. You can pick berries while you're hiking." It was just the best experience in this industry that you're in. Has it taken you somewhere that you were kind of like, "Oh, here I go," and then it just completely shocked you?
I remember like the crew got booked for a gig in Key West, Florida. That probably is like top-notch trip that we had ever taken. Like they flew us out to do it's like a workshop and a little performance, and they took care of us. It was like it felt like five-star type shit. Like they got us this really nice house that had its own beach. I had a beach in my backyard. Like that was mind blowing for me. I remember waking up I think like the first night we stayed there, I remember waking up to seeing the sun just like coming out of the water. I didn't care about sunsets and sunrises and stuff at the time. At that moment, I became a sunset and sunrising chaser. I hadn't seen anything that beautiful with my own eyes. Like I seen it in pictures, and it's like I literally like I remember waking up, open my eyes, and I see, and as I'm opening my eyes, the sun is kind of coming up out of the water, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I'm trying to like wake everybody else up to see it. And they're like, whatever, whatever. I'm like, fuck you guys. I'm going outside. Like I run out, I'm like outside with my little camera, trying to take as many pictures as possible. And yeah, so that was one of those situations where I would say it took me to a place where I'm like, it's forever burned in my mind. Like I can look at those pictures, but I don't really have to. It's there.
Yeah, shout out to like the underrated companies or the smaller guys in the industry who really go above and beyond to treating their guests and treat like I know for me in cheerleading, like varsity is like the big guy and they pay their judges, their events, they pay them shit. But then when I started to do work with this non-profit company, this company that was not necessarily all-star, I mean, they valued my time more than anyone in the industry. So 100% shout out to those companies who treat artists like real artists. It's always the big guys who really don't really appreciate the true artistry that goes behind the work.
Like where does the integrity get lost? Like I don't get it.
Yeah, I do have to start wrapping up because I have a hair appointment because I'm going to Cancun tomorrow. So what's under here, I've got to go clean it up. But
I am with you. I am like I'm with you. Like this needs to be taken care
I'll post pictures of your abs the entire time, you know,
of.
and where you're at in your frame right now, you're at shoulders and up. I
Hmm.
want to give you a couple of sounds and I want to see if you can kind of match the sound with your body, if that
All
makes
right.
sense.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So I'll just kind of put you on the spot and I'm just going to wing the sounds.
Let's go.
Whatever comes through to your device, however you hear it, just match it. But I won't do anything, okay? Ah, oh, boom, 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 boom. Ticka, ticka, ta, go. Yes. Thank you so much for participating in that. I literally have had that in my notes since you confirmed. And I'm like, I just want to see what it's going to translate like in Zoom. So
I have no idea what I look like. And I was like, all right, let's channel this. Let's see.
no, that was fun. More than anything, my big purpose with talking to artists like you, choreographers like you, is also to promote more of the story behind the choreography, right? Anyone can go onto the website, read what you do, but I want people to also be like, oh, well, he's from Atlanta. Oh, he went to this place, or I love sunrises too. I want people to connect beyond the artistry. So I love that we talked about family and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for being awesome and participating in this.
I respect, man. I respect all that, dude. I appreciate you just hitting me up, man. I was curious of how the conversation would go, and I love the fact that it was. I felt like this was like just a genuine conversation. You know what I'm saying? In my growing, I've come to like really love deep, meaningful conversations. I suck at small talk. I
No,
appreciate
same. I know. I feel like it felt like I was catching up with someone. And so hopefully people listening don't think I'm just making this up. Like literally, we've never talked before. So
no, legit. Like, and that what makes it even like even cooler. Like, it's really easy for me to go deep with somebody that I know. Like, for the most part, with a stranger, like we've been around certain circles, but we like don't like I really don't know you like that. So the fact that we
exactly.
so the fact that we can still connect on that level, like it just gives me a little like it gives me hope for society just a little bit.
Exactly. Same, same, same. Q, tell everyone where they can find you, your Instagram handles, your website, and where they can reach you at.
Word up. The Instagram is Q Harper one. That is my I have two. I have like my dance, Q Harper one, and then I have Q Harper Fitness. That's where all my coaching and like random fitness information goes. Was it QHarper.net? Because QHarper.com is taken right now. But I'm gonna get it. But yeah, QHarper.net is where it's like the hub of everything. Oh, YouTube, Q Harper Fitness, and Q Harper Dance.
Perfect. So did everyone hear that? The QHarper.com one, go and report that shit. Go say that they're scamming people. Go report it, report it, report it.
Maybe not. Maybe not. He's just like there's like he's like an artist. Maybe we can. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we can collab one day and work together. I think he's like a music person.
I
So
actually saw that when I was doing some research. He's like a jazz or some musician,
yeah,
something like that. Anyway, awesome. So maybe we won't report him. We'll let him go this time. We'll see.
if you want, yeah, if we can work out a deal and work together, then you can leave him alone. You can be the homie.
Exactly. There you go. Thank you so much. It was nice talking with you.
Oh, it was dope, man. It was awesome talking to you, bro. Appreciate it.
Awesome. We'll be in touch.
All right, peace.
See you later.